Russian ties to the Trump administration is making headlines again as the Washington Post reported late last night that Attorney General Jeff Sessions had spoken with the Russian ambassador twice during the presidential campaign and failed to disclose that information to Congress. Sessions spoke with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak in July and also met with him in person on September 8th at the height of the Russian cyber hacking disclosures during the presidential election. This is how Sessions responded to a question from Minnesota Senator Al Franken during his confirmation hearings last month.
And if there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
But also, Senator Patrick Leahy sent him a written statement asking him if he was aware of any discussions taking place between Russian officials and the Trump administration before or after the 2016 election. He simply gave a one-word answer: no. The question is Attorney General Jeff Sessions lying? Here's a statement from Al Franken. If it is true that Attorney General Sessions met with the Russian ambassador in the midst of the campaign, then I am very troubled that his response to my questioning during his confirmation hearing was, at best, misleading. Now, what's also interesting is that Sessions released a statement late last night that reads, quote, "I never met with any Russian officials to discuss issues of the campaign. I have no idea what the allegation is about. It is false." Now, remember, in his testimony, he said he didn't meet with anybody. Now he says, well, he met, but they did not talk about the campaign. The White House released this statement, quote, "This is the latest attack against the Trump administration by partisan Democrats. General Sessions met with the ambassador in an official capacity as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, which is entirely consistent with his testimony. It's no surprise Senator Al Franken is pushing the story immediately following President Trump's successful address to the nation." Congressman Elijah Cummings, he is calling on Attorney General Jeff Sessions to resign. Other folks are calling for him to recuse himself in the event a special prosecutor is appointed. Joining us via Skype from Manhattan is Terrell Jermaine Starr, a senior reporter at Foxtrot Alpha, an expert on Russia. Got to ask you, Terrell, looking at this whole deal here, here's what is interesting. And we keep coming back to the intersection of Trump and Russia. Why is it that the only country that seems to always come back to haunt Trump is Russia?
Because he has something to hide. So I've been thinking about this question and how I would respond to you this morning for hours. And I've been trying to draw on my experience, my contacts. And the reality is that none of what's happening right now with Sessions or with Flynn or with Carter Page or with Paul Manafort or Donald Trump himself is not going to ultimately matter if Congress does not see this as a problem. And I say this because it's clear as a result of listening to his joint session speech that Trump, for a lot of Republicans, holds a wider, I guess, more important purpose, which is to what I call maintain the supremacy of his party. You know, he is not, he's not here to protect America against Russia. He's not here to protect the sovereignty or the integrity of American sovereignty. He is pretty much elected to protect American voters' whiteness, the white people who voted for him. And because if he really did care about Russia, the Congress would take this seriously. With Sessions, we really can't blame the Russians for this, right? Because he did have a meeting with the ambassador. And if he met with the ambassador, how come he just couldn't say so? To me, this is an issue of one person after another lying. That's what it is.
Well, and not only that, again, we have the president who routinely said, and you can't keep up with what's true or what's false that he says. It's like a competition. He repeatedly said, I had a relationship with Russia. I didn't have one. I know Putin. I don't know Putin. Most recently, in his news conference, he said, I have no business ties. I have no business dealings in Russia. Yet his own son is on record, a recording saying, oh, we have millions flowing into the Trump organization from Russia. And so it seems to be, again, every time it's Russia, Russia, Russia.
Listen, here's the thing. What I will tell you is that I've lived in several countries, Ukraine and Georgia, that have been invaded by Russia and who have had wide range, negative ties to Russia, including Armenia and Moldova. And I've watched the news cycle there anytime there's a conflict between that particular capital and Moscow. And I can definitely say that the parliaments of these particular countries took Russian interference far more seriously than what we're seeing here by the United States Congress, at least the GOP side. And mind you, America hasn't even been invaded, but the problem is that our sovereignty, the integrity of our democracy is very vulnerable.
But you're also seeing Russia influence in the European elections, and they're going to great strides to protect themselves from the exact same thing they tried, same thing they did here, they're trying to do right now in multiple European nations.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that if you look at the hacking of Estonia in 2007, the hacking of Georgia in 2009, well, in 2008, excuse me, and I was there in 2009 when the Russians invaded, and I saw the information war that took place with my very own eyes in real time. A very similar dynamic is happening here. The difference between America and all of those nations is that those nations took it seriously, right? And the parliaments acknowledged it. The top spy in Germany right now acknowledges this. Top government officials in France acknowledge that there's interference. In America, we do not have that. That's the major difference, and it goes back to my larger point of what does Donald Trump serve for the GOP here. In France, Marie Le Pen's party is called the National Front, and many of these parties have front as a title to it, kind of like Storm Front. The GOP serves as another front kind of party. They're a nationalist, xenophobic party, and you can't really separate Donald Trump and the GOP from one another. And I'm bringing all this up to say is that Donald Trump represents a very xenophobic vision that pretty much Speaker Paul Ryan co-signs and the rest of the GOP. So if they're doing that, Russia is nothing more than a distraction that gets in the way of the GOP carrying out its nationalist agenda. And that's actually more important than what they would consider a perceived threat from Russia.
Got it. All right. Terrell Starr, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Let's go to our panel. Ralph Chittims, Principal, Black Elephant Consultants, Dr. Julian Malveaux, Economist, President Emerita, Bennett College, and Faraji Muhammad, host of Listen Up, WEAA 88.9 FM in Baltimore. Ralph, I'll start with you. Again, it's every time somebody in this administration gets in trouble, Russia is involved. NSA advisor, National Security Advisor Mike Flynn has to resign because it's Russia. And now you have Sessions, I didn't meet with anybody, but actually he did.
Well, the questioning, that one question from Senator Franken was pulled out of a larger questioning session that dealt with members of the Trump administration communicating with Russians regarding the campaign. He answered that question in that broader context. And if you looked at the questions that came before Franken's and the questions that came after Franken's, you would see that it was in that broader context of Trump campaign people talking to the Russians about the campaign.
Actually,
now, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, Senator Sanders
Ralph,
had every responsibility and spoke with more than 25 diplomats from different countries.
Ralph, in the question, it also said Trump surrogates. He was a surrogate. In his answer, he said, I guess you could call me a surrogate.
But now, it was in the context of the campaign.
Ralph,
that was the broader context.
Why couldn't he simply say, I had 2 meetings with the Russian ambassador, One of those meetings that took place literally right after the Obama administration revealed the impact on Russia's hacking. That's the problem. And then to Senator Patrick Leahy's question, he gives a flat-out written statement, no.
But Patrick Leahy's question also specifically asked communications with the Russians regarding the campaign. He answered that question truthfully. No, I did not communicate with the Russians regarding the campaign.
So you don't think
communications with the Russians had to do with him being a member of the Armed Services
How do we know
Committee.
that? How do we know that? Because, first of all, he said he didn't meet with anybody. Then he couldn't remember. Now he's saying, well, no, I didn't meet, or we didn't talk about this. How do you know that? How do you know what they discussed?
I wasn't in the room, but you brought me on the show to ask me my opinion.
No, but you're stating what they discussed or what they didn't discuss, but you don't know that.
No, I'm saying in the context of the question that they asked him, they said, did you talk to the Russians regarding the campaign? He said no.
Juliana?
Here's the bottom line. Jeff Sessions perjured himself. He is disqualified from being the Attorney General because he perjured himself. As you said, all he had to say was, yes, I had these couple of meetings. You do talking points very well, my brother. Very, very well. But the bottom line is he had, I don't know how many opportunities. And as Roland has said, it's Russia, 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 Russia. Trump has ties to Russia. I don't know this as a fact, but we know that he will not release his tax returns, which would reveal that. We know that the business information that we've gotten from him has been incomplete, and we know that others have clearly had communication with Russia. Russia is our arch enemy. Now, it doesn't have to be, and maybe he wants to quote normalize relations, but heretofore, Russia has been our arch enemy. So to get in bed with our arch enemy and then to stand in front of the joint session of Congress and talk about making America great and reviving the American spirit is enough to turn your stomach.
Haraji?
You have the top lawyer in the country lying about something that he shouldn't have lied about from the very beginning. And that's the problem. I mean, when you have President Trump has only been in office for about 5 weeks, and look at how many lies have come up into his campaign, his messaging, his presidency. And at this point, if everybody, including President Trump, is lying and all the folks around him are lying, but as Terrell mentioned, this is a real threat to, to the larger democracy of this country and to the larger trust that people have. People don't understand that when you have your top lawyer, top law enforcement official, or your quote-unquote leader of the free world lying constantly, then what are the people to believe in?
But I would say that he didn't lie because the question was in the context.
No. You are splitting hairs.
He just lied.
Did you meet with the Russians regarding the campaign?
Former President Bill Clinton would be very proud of that answer. That the answer Jeff Sessions came was what is. I want to bring up. We're going to talk to her about health care, but I actually want to bring in Congresswoman Alma Adams of North Carolina. Congresswoman, we will talk about health care in about 1 minute. I do want to get, though, your thoughts with regards to this latest report from the Washington Post. Again, Russia, Trump administration, another example. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not impressed with all this happened around the presidency of just 40 days. I think that Sessions needs to go. I think he needs to resign. I think they need to ask for his resignation. He lied. And I think there are lots of things that need to be uncovered. We don't know what's in the president's tax returns. No other president, 44 presidents, have provided that information, and I think I think we need, as a nation, to demand it. We should not let presidents do what they want to do, and they need to be responsible to the people. So, listen, the lies are exposed now, so I think we need to get rid of them.
And you also, of course, have the New York Times report. Shelley, go to my iPad, please. Headline here: Obama administration rushed to preserve intelligence of Russian election hacking because they feared the incoming Trump administration. They were going to wipe a lot of this information off the map, and so it's an amazing story of how the Obama administration would ask for information in emails, knowing full well by asking for the information, it would then have to automatically be preserved and could not be removed by a new administration. Your thoughts?
Wow. Well, listen, I have a lot of respect for the intelligence of the Obama administration, and I think that there's a big cover-up here, and whatever we can do to expose it right now, I think we need to turn every corner to do it.
A peaceful protest turned deadly. 37-year-old black man was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police. His hands are in the air, and you still get shot by the cops.
Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
We're not gonna let hate define us.
Race is a big part of this.
If truly all lives matter, then all lives need to matter equally.
What we require is action. What we require is accountability. We understand that black lives do matter, and we will keep focused on this issue.
NewsOne Now, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.